What's up? Brian Tong here, and welcome to the Apple Bits for everything good and bad inside the world of Apple. We know the big hardware that we're all waiting for right now is the new M2 chip and the new MacBook Air. But Apple, they just announced that the new M2 MacBook Pro 13-inch, the one with the older body and parts, that would be available to order this Friday, June 17th, and then they'll start arriving to customers on Friday, June the 24th, but still no word about the M2 MacBook Air pre-order or availability. Now, Geekbench Benchmarks for the new M2 chip in that 13-inch MacBook Pro were discovered recently, and they revealed that the new M2 chip is up to 20% faster than the M1. Now, we know that the new M2 chip runs at 3.49 gigahertz compared to the 3.2 gigahertz clock speed for the M1, and in a single-core score performance matchup, it had a 1,919, which is about 12% faster than the M1's single-core score of 1,707. Now, if we look at multi-core score performance, the M2 had a score of 8,928 compared to the M1's 7,419, which is about a 20% increase in performance for the M2. And that all does line up with Apple's claim of roughly an 18% performance gain. Now, if we're talking graphics and the metal performance that the M2 brought, it had a score of 30,627 compared to the 21,001 score for the M1. So there's gonna be a big jump there, and you have to remember the M2 has a 10-core GPU versus the M1's 8-core GPU. But to put that in perspective about how big a jump Apple Silicon has made, we compare the 13-inch M2 MacBook Pro with its 8,928 multi-core score outperforms a standard Mac Pro configuration with an 8-core Intel Xeon W processor with an average multi-core score of 8,027. One is a laptop just under $1,300 right now, and the other is a desktop workstation that's just under $6,000. That is just crazy. And yes, come on, higher-end Mac Pros can still outperform the M2 if you configure them that way, but that's just insane to see how much of a transformative leap that Apple has made with their own silicon. Now, that's not the only leap that we're probably going to see with the MacBook lineup. The latest report from display analyst Ross Young says it's increasingly likely that Apple will launch a new 13-inch MacBook with an OLED display in 2024. Now, he also says that this new OLED MacBook is expected to be a new MacBook Air, but it's possible it might have other branding. He also expects Apple to release a new 11-inch and 12.9-inch iPad Pros with OLED displays in 2024 as well. But come on, that's a couple years out away if it actually happens. So I would say don't let the rumor mills drive your purchasing decisions that far out, because the biggest buzz is still around the new Air, but a recent report says that Apple is also working on a new 15-inch MacBook Air that could be launched as early as next spring, according to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. Now, it will reportedly still use the same revamped design as the new MacBook Air, but creep closer to the size of the current 16-inch MacBook Pro. Now, Apple's new M2 MacBook Air itself even increased its display from 13.3 on the previous model to 13.6 inches this year. This rumored 15-inch MacBook Air, it actually makes complete sense when you look at Apple's current product lineup for portables. So right now, the lineup starts with the $999 M1 MacBook Air using the previous wedge design. Next, you have the new M2 MacBook Air that starts at $1199. And then we have the new M2 13-inch MacBook Pro with the older design that starts at just $100 more at $1299. And its biggest difference is that it has a fan to keep it cooler and ideally sustain better performance for more intensive tasks versus the fanless M2 MacBook Air. You could actually custom configure both of the new M2 notebooks with the M2 chip. You put the 8-core CPU and 10-core GPU in them, and then put 8 gigs of unified memory, 512 gigs of solid-state storage, and they'll be exactly the same price at $1499. So when I look at this just really feels like it's right out of Tim Cook's playbook, who wants something at all these different price points. And we've seen how the iPhone lineup, it has 6 different models on sale right now. Now, if you look after that entry-level price point of $1299 for the 13-inch MacBook Pro that has the new M2 in it, the MacBook lineup then takes this big leap with the current 14-inch MacBook Pro. That starts at $1999, and then the 16-inch MacBook Pro starts at $2499. So you look at this entire MacBook family, not only does the M2 13-inch MacBook Pro just like stick out like a sore thumb, but I think that if there was a perfect product that would slot right into that $1499 base model price point before any customizations, it has got to be a larger 15-inch MacBook Air. And I think we'll end up seeing in the future. It makes complete sense, and damn, like that would be nice. I know a lot of people that would go for them, but that is not the only MacBook rumor. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman recently reported that Apple is also considering launching an all-new 12-inch notebook by the end of 2023 or early 2024. Now, it's unclear if it would be a low-end MacBook or a higher-end 12-inch MacBook Pro, which for me seems out of place. Another rumor from leaker Majin Buu then said it will be a 12-inch MacBook Pro with Apple Next-Gen M2 Pro and M2 Max chips. Now, Gurman has reported that the M2 Max chip will feature a 12-core CPU and up to a 38-core GPU. That's compared to the M1 Max's 10-core CPU and 32-core GPU. But then display analyst Ross Young, he slid in with maybe a little bit of a reality check, and he said he's skeptical about this new 12-inch MacBook at this point, with Apple's strategy currently at 13 inches and larger. To me, that sounds more reasonable, and Apple, look, they have the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, they got the 11-inch. You just add a Magic Keyboard and boom. We'll see if the 12-inch MacBook makes a comeback from its 2015 roots, because at that size now, you're really playing more into iPad territory. So, I don't know. My gut says like that would be kind of a weird type of product to put out there. But we talk about iPads and how that fits in. Hey, the iPad space is hot with rumors of its own. According to display analyst Ross Young, again, Apple's actively developing an iPad Pro with a monster 14.1-inch display. Now, he claims it will also feature a mini LED display like the current 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and it's still uncertain, but we could see an early 2023 launch time potentially. Now, the first report of an even larger iPad Pro came from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman last year, but putting the rumor mill chatter, kind of putting all the pieces together, it could point to us seeing a new iPad Pro Max. Because what else are they gonna call it? It's gonna be that. But you know me, the bigger, the better, and I love this idea of a larger iPad, reading comics, magazines, watching content on the road. I think it's such a unique product with the way that I use it, and yes, I do cuddle up to it a little bit, but it could also do so much more. I'd be the first to admit that, but I still love it. Now, the new iPad OS feature, Stage Manager, that takes up a lot of space on screen, and I could see it being a lot more comfortable experience on a bigger iPad. I'm also just trying to convince myself that I need a 14.1-inch iPad. But Stage Manager does feel like it's more for an iPad versus a Mac. I'm not saying it can't be on a Mac, but they put Stage Manager on the Mac platform as well to give users just a different option beyond Spaces. And you know what? People will figure out which way they want to use their computer and which way they like the most. Now, a recent Bloomberg report also says that new iPad Pros that are set to be announced around the fall will come, and we're talking about fall this year. They're going to come with a new M2 chip and the long-rumored wireless charging feature and the normal upgrades with the improved camera system as well. Now, this design is expected to stay the same, and after buying the M1 iPad Pro for myself last year and knowing that we still aren't utilizing all of its power, I've said this over and over and over, it's going to take a lot for me to even make the upgrade to an M2 style iPad Pro when I didn't really feel like I needed to upgrade to the M1 after using that iPad Pro for about a month. I mean, it's still going to be hard to convince many people that they need to upgrade their iPad unless they either need more power and are looking to do more higher end work, or their iPad is so old now, and by old, I mean, geez, older than 5 years, because these things really hold up even longer than that. I do think, though, there's two types of customers. Those are the two that would be primed for an upgrade. But let's move from the top-end iPads that we're talking about coming potentially this year to the entry level. Now, 9to5Mac reports that Apple is working on a refreshed, low-cost entry-level iPad, but it will get new features to kind of bring it in line with the current iPad lineup. The report says that the 2022 iPad, the entry-level one, will have a larger 10.5-inch display, which is an upgrade over its current 10.2-inch display. It'll bring an A14 Bionic chip that was first used in the iPhone 12 and also 5G connectivity. And the biggest sign that the iPad is moving forward, a USB-C port instead of a Lightning port, which would update the entire iPad lineup to use USB-C. Still waiting for the iPhone though. But the report claims that Apple has likely announced this new entry-level iPad sometime in around the fall, but feature-wise, I mean, I think just saying it out loud, that's a killer entry-level iPad that is good enough for almost everyone. And a quick note, I continue to be so impressed with how Apple TV has evolved and grown, but they just announced that starting in 2023, the Apple TV app will be the exclusive destination to watch every single Major League Soccer match for the next decade, and regional blackout restrictions will not apply. So you're gonna need a separate subscription, but starting next year, Apple TV will be the new home of the MLS and my favorite team, LAFC. Did I do that right to the camera? I think I did. Now, their inaugural season, that was the same year I moved out here to LA, and it will be the only LA sports team that I root for ever, but MLS coming to Apple TV. That's pretty sweet. All right, that's gonna do it for this video. If you like what you see, give me that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, to get all my latest videos when they drop. And if you want more of that Apple goodness, you can check out my weekly Apple Bits XL audio podcast. You get the latest deep dive with all these stories and new ones every week with special guests. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Take care and be safe, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace and love.